Ms. Deoja, if you would join me up here. In recognition of your distinguished contributions to scholarship, service, and education, the Board of Directors of Phi Kappa Phi and the UT Dallas chapter have nominated and elected you into honorary membership. Please accept this framed certificate, honor cord, and pin, which commemorate your award and membership into the society. Congratulations.
Thank you for the kind introduction. It is really surreal to think that less than 7 years ago, I was a student here, an employee at the UTD Pub, and a resident of Waterview. And now I am standing here in front of you all, being given this prestigious award. I am truly grateful to be bestowed such an honor. Even though the campus looks very different from how it looked back then, it still feels really familiar to be back at a place which I called home for 4 years. When people hear that I work for NASA, they usually have a few questions to ask. So before we get any further, I would like to address some of these questions. First of all, are there aliens? Unfortunately, this is something I can neither confirm nor deny. Mostly because I'm just a lowly engineer, and they try to keep us away from customer interfacing projects. In fact, I have already said too much. Did we really land on the moon? Fortunately, this is something I can answer. I have on good authority that we did, in fact, land on the moon. Some of you might have seen the report. Yes, I am referring to Mythbusters, Season 6, Episode 11. Last but not the least, do I work with monkeys? To be honest, this is one of my biggest disappointments about working for NASA. I have not yet had the privilege of working with monkeys, even though it was clearly listed as one of the perks in the employee handbook. Well, now that we've gotten the aliens and the monkeys out of the way, let's move on to the humans. And what's more human than failure? When I was told I would have a few minutes at the podium, I pondered about what I would say. I've asked myself, what important lessons have I learned in the 7 years since I graduated? At work, I would often hear the quote from Apollo 13 flight director Gene Kranz, "Failure is not an option." But I have realized that in life, it is invariably a possibility. I was guided to this realization with some patient mentorship, and this has ultimately helped me grow both professionally and personally. When I first started, while walking down the hallowed halls of Johnson Space Center, I used to sometimes wonder if I belonged. I can honestly say that the guidance I received during these early years is probably the reason I am standing in front of you. So, as a person who has immensely benefited from guidance received during her failings, I would like to talk to you about failure and the benefits of mentorship. After receiving my bachelor's degree, I joined NASA and was assigned to the engineering group working on electrical power systems for space vehicles. My primary job function was designing and testing hardware for the International Space Station and the Orion program. That was until the inception of Project Morpheus. Morpheus is a prototype lander vehicle designed for vertical takeoff and landing. The project was created to test technologies that can benefit future human exploration space missions, particularly advancing green, liquid oxygen and methane propulsion, and precision autonomous landing on a planetary surface. Project Morpheus was challenged to provide this vehicle an operations capability to conduct flight tests using a lean development approach of a small team, rapid manufacturing and turnaround time, with minimal resources. Work on Project Morpheus began earnestly in the summer of 2010. After a lot of late nights, stressful days in field testing, the Alpha vehicle was ready for its maiden untethered test in August of 2012. In NASA timeline, this turnaround time was unheard of. On the fateful day, the team huddled in mission control for the flight test, and with bated breath, counted down to 0. The vehicle started rising, but shortly after takeoff, it started pitching forward. We all watched in shock and horror as the vehicle dove, landed upside down, rolled, and then caught fire. I, along with my colleagues, felt the agony of slowly watching something we built from the ground up engulfed in flames. And then there was an explosion. and then it was over. The flight was a complete failure, and the vehicle was a total loss. Even though damage or loss of vehicle was pre-declared as a potential test outcome, I wasn't ready to watch my first big project literally go up in flames. As one of the youngest and the least experienced members of the team, I was almost certain I would be receiving my walking papers, and this would be the end of my NASA career. Spoiler alert, I didn't lose my job. My colleagues and other senior engineers saw that I wasn't taking it too well and tried to put it in perspective for me. Even though the flight was a failure, the test was not. We had tangible data that we could use to design an even better vehicle with. In fact, I didn't just not lose my job, but was offered a leadership engineering position in the project. This would require me to push myself, both technically and professionally. I was invigorated with this vote of confidence, and the whole team was motivated to not repeat the mistakes of the past. Less than 2 months later, 70 design upgrades were developed and proposed for the buildup of the Bravo vehicle. Within a short 6 months, we had our new vehicle built and ready for field testing. Some guided tests later, less than a year and a half after the fateful crash, Morpheus 1.5 was ready to attempt another untethered free flight. John Shedd once said, "A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." It was time to let Morpheus fly again. So once again, the team gathered in the control center. The flight director was polling all of the subsystems for a status, go or no go. I wondered, had I done everything to prevent another crash? When the flight director polled my subsystem, I was confident that I had done everything in my power to prevent history repeating itself. I answered in the affirmative. The command was given to initiate the flight sequence. The engine lit, and the lander slowly lifted off the ground. All of the flight controllers watched the data stream on their displays, ready to call an abort if necessary. Morpheus continued to rise in the air, rock steady, then slowly and precisely began its descent. When the lander touched down safely, I could hear a collective sigh of relief in the room. The flight could not have gone any better. Well, I guess it could have landed a few millimeters to the left, but nobody was complaining. This was my first introduction to the concept of failing forward. When I was sitting where you are today, what I feared most was failure. Working for an organization that put a man on the moon, I was under the impression that failure was not acceptable. I quickly realized there would be no innovation and originality if we let failure impede our progress. As long as the failures are a foundation of future success, it is only a detour, not a dead end. Prioritizing testing over analysis and allowing employees to fail forward is the most important tenet I learned from this endeavor. I've always wanted to work for NASA since I was a little girl. There might be jobs that let you travel, give enticing stock options, or offer killer snack rooms. But I don't know of any jobs that'll let you get sick in simulated zero gravity in the aptly named Vomit Comet. A little while ago, while floating around in zero G, I had a smile on my face, feeling blessed to be working at my dream job. However, thinking back, I realized that I might not have had a whole deal of choice in this matter. Growing up, my dad would get me microscopes and books on astrophysics as birthday or Christmas gifts. He was always eager to bring out the whiteboard to explain calculus and talk about vague math concepts, which wouldn't be strange if I wasn't 10. Either way, I believe my proclivity to math and science began around the same time. In 10th grade, I wrote our congressman about my desire to work for NASA, and shortly after, I got nominated and chosen to participate in the High School Aerospace Scholars Program, which is an initiative to encourage students to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM. As part of the program, I would spend a week at GSC working on a simulated Mars mission with other Texas students. This was my first experience working with actual engineers, and I got a glimpse into what it was like to work at NASA. This helped set me on my path to where I am today. In my senior year at UTD, I was offered an internship position at NASA. I would be working under the direction of a technical lead engineer as a test director, performing environmental and hazardous testing. Initially, I felt a little out of place among the well-seasoned professionals, but eventually I realized that this was my opportunity to get some first-hand experience with individuals who are expert in their fields. I received a lot of one-on-one guidance from my supervisor, as well as other senior engineers during my time as an intern. For a young, unsure engineer, these lessons learned during these precious few months were invaluable, as I slowly felt more comfortable and productive. Before the conclusion of my internship, I presented the results of my work, an automated thermal control test system. I believe that this stint was a crucial factor in me securing the full-time position after I graduated. However, I know I would have never been in that position had it not been for the support and guidance I received during my time there. I am aware that I probably would have never made it on my own. There have always been people, either my family, professors, colleagues, or friends, who have selflessly helped me along the way. When I joined NASA, I wanted to somehow return the favor any way I could. It was only natural that I end up back where it all started, the High School Aerospace Scholars Program, except this time as a mentor. During my time as a mentor, I have had the privilege of working with some great students who frankly have amazed me with their knowledge of science and have sometimes put my NASA fangirl status to shame. As part of another NASA educational outreach initiative, I once mentored a 4th grade girl after her parents had signed her up for the program. Right away, she told me that math and science were her least favorite subjects. During our time together, we tried to build a robotic arm out of rubber bands, straws, and cardboard. She was excited to see the hand she built curl its fingers and pick up an empty soda can when she pulled the rubber bands acting as joints. She offered several suggestions on how to improve the crude robotic hand, like maybe using different materials instead of cardboard, or adding an opposable thumb would improve the design. For a little girl who started off reluctant, she ended up being the chief architect of the project. By the end of the summer program, she was a little more excited for her math and science classes that she would be taking, and she even told me that she could see herself maybe being a software engineer someday. Honestly, I'm not sure how much of a difference I am making in these students' lives, but I know the importance mentoring played in mine. If somehow I ended up playing even a small role in helping someone cultivate their dreams or encourage them in their endeavors, I feel like I have achieved something. I try to keep in contact with a few of the students I worked with, and I invariably feel happy when I hear about their accomplishments. A couple of them have already even joined as NASA interns, and I hope to work alongside them someday. If you are still awake and listening to my ramblings, I commend you. And if not, then I don't blame you. Either way, I promise I'm almost done. I just want to end by saying that I am sure everyone here is aware of the amount of work and effort it took you to be in the position that you are today. You are being honored for the dedication and sacrifices as much as your exemplary academic achievements. I have no doubt that each one of you will find success and become leaders of the community. Along the way, you might hit a couple of hurdles, but try to learn from them. And when you do find yourself in a position to impart these lessons you learn, I encourage you to share without reservations. If I am any indication, they will be eternally grateful. My sincerest congratulations to you all, and thank you very much.